Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Vero Beach. We're so glad you're beginning this final Sunday of September with us. We had the first hint of cooler weather this week in Vero Beach. Autumn is on the way. I'm Reverend Scott Alexander, senior minister of this congregation. We are a traditional brick and mortar church located at the corner of 16th Street and 27th Avenue here in the beautiful city of Vero Beach, Florida, and we serve the Treasure Coast community. And of late, we are also an inclusive and progressive virtual congregation without walls that embraces and serves folks from all over the United States and the world who access us through the internet. Please know you are welcome here just as you come to us in all of your human particularity and charm. Whether you are young or old, gay or straight, black or white or Latino, or some other wonderful shade of humanity, whether you are a first-time visitor this morning or have been attending for decades, whether you're feeling absolutely on top of the world this morning or somewhat down in the dumps, we are delighted to have you with us this morning. We hope you will find our service this morning meaningful and enriching, and that you will find something here to take with you that nourishes your spirit and feeds your soul and gives you renewed energy and purpose for the living of life in the days and weeks ahead. So welcome. This is a special and innovative Sunday here at UUFVB. This morning we are experiencing what I call a virtual pulpit exchange with the minister of the Abraham Lincoln Unitarian Universalist congregation in Springfield, Illinois, the Reverend Martin Wolfe, a friend of mine. And I am preaching a sermon via video there this morning on patience, and he is bringing us his topic, the masks we wear. I wanted to tell you that Dr. Reverend Martin Wolfe has been the minister of the Abraham Lincoln Church for the last 17 years. He's a long-term pastor. I met him years ago when he was in seminary, and I got reacquainted to him on my first cross-country bike trip when I was here in Vero. I stopped in Springfield. We stopped in Springfield. We had an overnight, and I enjoyed a meal with Martin, and we've gotten closer and regularly stay in touch since then. He's a wonderful man, and he's wearing a bow tie this morning in the video, which you will see. So I put a bow tie on this morning so that we can both be bow tied. So welcome. I have just a couple of announcements. Please join today's Zoom coffee hour. If you're a member or friend, you received the link earlier from us. You just click on the Zoom link. You can also find that Zoom link on our UUFVB website. Even if you're visiting us from afar and don't know anyone yet, please, at 11 o'clock, right after the service, join us on the Zoom coffee hour. I'll be there, and we always enjoy seeing you. And then I remind you that tomorrow, Monday, there will be a Zoom check-in with me. Again, we send the link to all members and friends. If you did not receive the link, simply call our office on Monday morning and we'll send you that link by email. It's just a check-in, about an hour to chat with others about what's going on in our lives and in our world. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Vero Beach. We are so pleased you are here with us. Now our service begins with the introit, "Where Do We Come From?"
Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, come from mystery. Where are we? is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery.
Good morning. My name is Martin Wolfe, and I have the privilege of serving the Abraham Lincoln Unitarian Universalist congregation here in Springfield, Illinois. It is a pleasure to join with you on this particular Sunday, and I bear greetings from myself, my family, and all the adults and children of this congregation, roughly 350 individuals. So on our behalf, from the cornfields of the prairies of Illinois to you in Florida, greetings, especially to my colleague, the Reverend Scott Alexander, whom I first met 30 years ago when I was a student at Meadville Lombard Theological School, when I had just enrolled and he was already a seasoned minister, who has welcomed me and so many others to be colleagues and friends. For this morning, I'd like to share with you a reading. Let us come together this morning to remind one another, to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's face and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. Let this house of laughter and silence, of memory and hope, be hallowed by our presence together. Those words by our colleague, Kathleen McTeague.
Our opening hymn this morning, number 126. If you have it at home, sing along. Otherwise, just hum along. Come, thou fount of every blessing.
Come, thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come, thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun, when we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come, thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways, lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love, with thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
And join with me in the words to light our chalice flame this morning, and then we will sing the response. Though our knowledge is incomplete, our truth partial, and our love imperfect, we believe that new light is ever waiting to break into our hearts and minds to enlighten our common path, that there is mutual strength in willing cooperation, and that the bonds of love keep open the gates of freedom.
Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of how we like to live each day, with love and truth helping lead the way.
Good morning. The Time for All Ages is inspired by a media clip by The History of Face Masks by Draw My Life. In the past, we would have thought when seeing people in Asian countries wearing face masks kind of science fiction. But now with COVID-19, we are getting used to face masks being a part of our day-to-day attire. So what is the history and origins of this protective garment? We first see face masks in the 1st century AD with Roman miners. The use of animal bladders to protect the Roman miners from inhaling toxins in the mines. Centuries later, Leonardo da Vinci recommended using wet cloths over the mouths and nose to avoid contagious infections. When the Black Plague was hitting Europe, causing millions to death, it was this creepy medieval doctor attire dubbed Dr. Beak that prevented doctors from getting too close to infected patients, and it could be filled with aromatic plants to help with bad smells in the environment. Not only a mask, but also a rod to push away anyone who got too close. By 1890, face masks was already the norm in the operating rooms. It was during this time when a new epidemic, the Chinese plague, started in the northeastern territory in China, with a mortality rate of almost 100%. The medical staff started to cover their heads with bandages while transporting the bodies of people who died due to this plague. Years later, in 1918, face masks, what we know today, became widespread in America during the Spanish flu. What is clear is that face masks will be an important part of our day-to-day lives, at least for some time. So choose the design you like and please use it. It will not only protect you, but also everyone else. Thank you for allowing me to share the Time for All Ages with you.
So now is the time in our service for the members and friends of our fellowship to express their financial commitment to the ongoing work in which this congregation shares. Now, every Sunday when we were able to meet in person at our church facility at 1590 27th Avenue, we collect donations for worthy community service organizations here on the Treasure Coast, which we have selected as particularly worthy. This morning's organization to be supported is Every Dream Has a Price. They rehab houses in the area for unfortunate, poorer folks, and it's a wonderful organization. If you wish to make a donation to this organization during this time of remote services, please make a check out to UUFVB, and in the memo line, simply write, "Every Dream Has a Price." And we, twice a year, will mail them a check, and they'll receive the full amount of your contributions. We would also remind all members and friends of our congregation, whether they are watching us on the internet this morning from here on the Treasure Coast or from somewhere else in the country or the world, that UUFVB needs your continuing and faithful financial generosity, especially in this difficult time. You can either use the convenient Donate tab found in the yellow ribbon at the top of our UUFVB website, or mail a check into the UUFVB offices located at 1590 27th Avenue here in Vero Beach. And if you notify us Our bookkeeper can also automatically charge pledges and contributions to a credit card or bank account of your choosing. Again, thank you for your generous support. The morning offering is now received. Because we are a caring religious community, every Sunday during our worship, whether we are gathered here at our facility in Vero Beach or participating via the internet, we take a few moments to share the joys and the sorrows and the prayers that are on our hearts this morning. I have several to share with you before I invite us all to share and participate in the ritual of stones and water. First, it is with great sadness that we announce the death of longtime and wonderful member of our fellowship, Eva Heifetz. She died this week up in Maine at her home after a very quick struggle with a very aggressive cancer. We'll be having a memorial service for her on Zoom next Friday, October 2nd. That would be 5 or 6 days from now at 1 p.m. 1 p.m., October 2nd, we will send a Zoom link to all members and friends. And again, if you don't get the link, simply call the office on Friday morning and we will send it to you. And I'm going to light now our special chalice in memory of Eva. I would also remind you that recently we lost much beloved member Jean Panuto. Her memorial service has been changed to October 16th. That is a Friday at 4:30 p.m. That will be a service where you can come with mask and with safe distancing. 4:30 on Friday, October 16th. We will also videotape the service and send the link to that service to everyone within a day or so that you can watch it if you were unable to be with us in person on the 16th. I remind you our dearly beloved member Pete Kersey is recovering at home from a recent fall. He does like visitors. Call ahead. His number is in the directory, or Kimberly in the office has his number. Visit him. He loves to chat with folks and stay acquainted. And it would also have your hearts go out again to Paula Herger, our former music director, who continues with her medical situation up in New Hampshire. Now, as I move to the stones and water, All of you at home can call to your hearts and minds those who are on your heart today, who you're thinking of and praying for. Let us participate in this ritual of stones and water.
Life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots wholly close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Reverend Wolfe, who will soon deliver the sermon, chose this reading before the sermon. It is by the Reverend Dr. Vincent Silman. It is entitled Religion. Let religion be to us life and joy. Let it be a voice of renewing challenge to the best we have and may be. Let it be a call to generous action. Let religion be to us a dissatisfaction with things that are, which bids us serve more eagerly the true and the right. Let it be the sorrow that opens for us a way to sympathy, understanding, and service to suffering humanity. Let religion be to us the wonder and lure of that which is only partially known and understood. An eye that glories in nature's majesty and beauty, and a heart that rejoices in deeds of kindness and of courage. Let religion be to us security and serenity because of its truth and beauty, and because of the enduring worth and power of the loyalties which it engenders. Let it be to us hope and purpose, and a discovering of opportunities to express our best through daily tasks. Religion, uniting us with all that is admirable in human beings everywhere, holding before our eyes a prospect of the better life for humankind, which each may help to make actual. This morning's anthem, Blessing, by Donna Herbert.
May the eastern breezes bless you, lift your spirits, make them fly. you standing, ground you so you know what's real. Over all be strength and beauty, fruit and friends and music fine. Work your love and pleasant duty, love to make your spirit shine. All of these we wish upon you, multiply them 3 times 3. Draw a circle all around you, and forever blessed be.
For the past 6 months, we have been traveling in the shadow of a pandemic, and we have encountered many strange and new things. And for those of us who are clergy, we have been reinventing our understanding of what it means to be in relationship with other people. But on the larger scale of this civilization, many people have been encountering new and frightening ideas and resistance, and rediscovering that the assumptions that we might have for existing in relationship with one another are not necessarily commonly shared by all. One of the ways in which this has been brought home to me is the emergence of a brand new word, anti-masker. There was a time when I was very familiar with the idea of mask. As a student of Joseph Campbell, I reveled in the study of how mask has been used by individuals and societies in the past to either embody a sense of the holy and sacred in theater or in a religious ritual, or more commonly, to wear a mask when my face is cold, when I have asthma, or perhaps around Halloween, and to delight, as I did as a child, in a vast array of different masks, some of which were designed to frighten others, others which were to project a more happy and attractive visage than the one I bear today. I'm reminded how even today, children can go into almost any store and see a wide variety of masks, and depending upon where they are in their life's development, can choose between something such as a werewolf or a zombie, or something, again, much more attractive. I think of my own daughter, how when she first wore a mask on Halloween, she was a Teletubby, and we cooed and we marveled at how precious she was. And then as she aged, she began to choose her own mask, and she chose that of a princess. One time she chose that of being a minister. But then perhaps in an age of rebelliousness, she chose a vampire princess, hoping to include both a sense of horror as well as a sense of beauty. In our own time, we have seen a flood of information about how vital it is for people to wear a mask. For the past 6 months, we have been flooded with stories about the pandemic, and we have been cautioned by different agencies and figures, both religious as well as civil, on the practicality of wearing a mask. We have also seen individuals, both religious and political, flaunt this information and rebuke it and dismiss it. So here in Springfield, for example, we have seen crowds of individuals wearing camouflage, wearing bulletproof vests, carrying either AR-15s or placards denouncing mandates, encouraging people to wear masks. These are anti-maskers who feel that any mandate for them, their families, their children to wear a mask is an imposition upon their political and, in some cases, religious liberty. This, to many of us, has been a startling phenomena. Many of us accepted the responsibility of wearing a mask. It's not totally foreign to us. As I mentioned, I have worn masks. I've worn masks in winter when my asthma was acting up. I've worn masks on various occasions, as I mentioned, such as Samhain or Halloween. But I've also understood that with the present climate, the political climate and the health climate, that a basic mask like this is intended to save lives. It might save mine. It might spare my family, my aged parents, or other individuals. It might save the life of a complete stranger in a store. We have seen a steady evolution of the types of masks available. We have seen how masks have become fashion statements, either about a particular political party, or in this case, a particular sports team. We have seen also how masks have been used. Where is it? Thank you. We have seen how masks have been used so that you can show your allegiance to particular religious denominations. In fact, in this particular congregation, we have two distinct renditions, dependent upon which version of a chalice you prefer. And so it is probably true that most religious liberals have hearkened to the pronouncements of health officials and have understood that because we are in relationship with so many other individuals, that we are interconnected, that we have an obligation to wear a mask when we go out in public so that we do not risk infecting other people who, through an innocent but very lethal interaction, might carry COVID-19 home and spread it amongst the people that they work with or the people that they love. We know this, and yet we also have seen a chorus of individuals, as I relate, saying that masks are evil and that masks are a ruse, that they're a hoax, and that, in fact, there is no need to wear them. Some of us will recall stories of how pastors encourage their congregations to meet in closed quarters without masks. And of course, we recall the news stories that followed about the awful levels of contagion and, in many instances, death that followed. I've had some people ask me, people who would describe themselves as religious libertarians, if it's true that masks save lives, why is it that they and so many others who refuse to wear masks are still alive? It's an intriguing question, but it also ignores that this particular pandemic does not slay all it encounters. It is not the Black Death of the 11th and 12th century. It is a very sinister and very subtle infection. We do not necessarily know if we are carrying this particular COVID-19. We do not know if others may contract it from us. We may be, as they say, asymptomatic. But what is the value of a mask? As I mentioned, since ancient times, it has been used to suggest a relationship with the sacred presence of the universe, as well as our relationship with one another. And so for the purpose of today, I would want to emphasize, number one, when we are out in public, we should definitely wear a mask. But we should also remember that we ourselves, throughout the different ages of our life, have often worn masks. Sometimes masks are fairly obvious, like the Halloween mask that I mentioned, or the masks that I've offered as tangible examples today. I remember also as a teenager experiencing my first outbreak of acne and how it covered my face and how I was appalled by how my face was disfigured. And so I borrowed tools from my mother and my sister to begin to mask off certain imperfections so that I would not be seen as disfigured by my classmates or my peers. Perhaps you did much the same. I also remember a time when I first entered seminary, when we were encouraged by our professor, the Reverend Peg Gooding, to understand that being religious, in particular being a religious leader, means that we are putting upon ourselves a particular mask and projecting a set of values, and that we are expected to follow suit and to live out those values in relationship with other people. How did she do this? Our class decorated our faces as though we were carnival clowns. We had broad lips and makeup everywhere. Our eyes were enhanced. And then we were instructed to go and walk through the community of Hyde Park, showing our face and this mask to as many individuals, adult and child, and then to come back and to share what we learned from these encounters. I found it easier knowing that I was going to wear a mask than rather my face and maybe a Roman collar, because masks provide a certain amount of discretion as well as protection of your identity. So I did go forth, as did all my colleagues, with my face colored as though I were a clown. I encountered individuals on the street. I smiled, I waved, I didn't engage in repartee, but I just walked through the streets of Hyde Park. The experience was remarkable. Some people seeing a mask, this mask of a clown, were thrilled and happy and delighted. They had no idea why I was doing that, but they waved and they smiled, and I proceeded. Other people saw me and they were alarmed. They were afraid. They did not know why a person would wear such a mask in public. Was I out to do something evil towards themselves or other people? Was I trying to cover my identity so that it would be difficult to identify me later? After about an hour of roaming the streets, I and the others returned, and we each shared our report, and all of us related similar experiences, that some people were delighted and other people repelled by the mask we wore. And I thought about that particular experience as I thought about my experience towards the people who are the anti-maskers. There are people that I have encountered in my life who will tell you that they do not need this type of protection because it is an affront to God. Their particular faith in the holy says that God will protect them from harm and that will steer them and the ones that they love as long as they are faithful. And therefore, that if you wear a mask, it is an affront to their faith. I've also thought about people who denigrate people who wear a mask. When I wear a mask, I have seen others, usually white males, who go about their business maskless in various stores. And they see me, and I see them look at me, and I can almost perceive their thoughts, and those thoughts are not very pretty indeed. And so they seem to call into question my sanity, if not my sense of masculinity. That's where the culture has taken us, into this incredible place of discord and division. How to respond? I will confess to you that when I watched images of armed individuals chanting that they wanted to go out and break quarantine so that they could get a haircut or get a meal, I was appalled. Who are these people? How is it possible that they do not heed the lessons of reason, of medicine, and science? How can they be so callous towards their fellow human being and even to their own families? How can they take such risks? But then I remember that according to the Pew reports, that so many of our fellow citizens in these United States dismiss basic scientific doctrine like evolution. So many of our fellow travelers believe that we're living in the end days and that there will be a moment when the sheep are separated from the goats, and that those who are holy and that those who are devout will be physically transmitted from this plane of existence into something much more blessed. Nearly half of our fellow citizens reject science and are wedded to religious views that I considered antiquated as well as literalist, and do not serve the needs of a 21st century society or individual. But how to interact? In my moments of first reaction, I reacted perhaps inspired by fear, but I truly did not love those other individuals. I did not try to exercise my compassion or empathy. I did not try to appreciate where they were in terms of their religious journey. I only saw them as an adversary, as an anti-masker, not as a fellow traveler. And I wondered, if I and others denigrate them, push them away, am I reinforcing their beliefs, or am I inviting them into a common conversation which can be informed by medicine, science, reason, but above all, compassion? I fear too often in this divided society that we have masked ourselves by political parties as well as our religious ideals, and that we often see each other not just as a stranger, but as an adversary. Sometimes we can make snap judgments based upon how a person is dressed, how they talk, what are their cultural references, and we can decide whether they belong with us or if they're against us. And this, I think, is one of the common failings of this generation. It's not new with us, but it seems to be reinforced, especially by the media and by so many voices that seek to separate us and to solidify the divisions for their own personal gain. What would it be like to approach a person and to invite them into a conversation rather than simply trying to convert them based upon facts and figures that we take for granted? I'm reminded of an incident going back a long time ago when I was walking with a fellow seminarian. This was a different occasion than when we were disguised as clowns, but this was at a General Assembly in Milwaukee around 1990 or 91. Mark Worth, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister now, and I were students, and we went walking. And not far from the convention center that housed this Unitarian Universalist General Assembly was a street corner group of evangelical conservative prophets. They were street corner preachers. And Mark and I looked at each other and we smiled as we began to discern the message that they were sharing. Because at that point, I, for one, understood that this was something inferior and it was not a worthy religious view. And so we sallied forth to enter into a debate with these individuals. And I entered this discussion or this encounter as a classic Unitarian. The one individual spouted his views, and I shared my views based upon the Unitarian doctrine that I had learned at school. And in fact, we were talking past each other. He made his points, I made my points. Neither one made an impression upon the mindset of the other. And that's where it stood. And we reached a standstill, and it was the end of this encounter. But then I began to listen in on the conversation that Mark was having with these other individuals. And he was approaching it as a universalist and approaching it through the gospel of love and reconciliation and inviting these people into a larger understanding instead of something which was, instead of an understanding of the holy that separates people into the saved and unsaved, into a common family, into the understanding that God or the holy is in relationship with us to bless our lives, to enrich our relationships as a parent, as a loving parent. And he drew his connections of this God, the God of universalism, with the people on that street corner and said, if you as a parent acted like you say this God would act, would that be ethical? Or would you as a parent want the best for your child and to learn from their mistakes? And how would you teach them to learn? And how would you introduce grace into their lives? And to return to the present moment, I find that in a lot of encounters, that's missing. We are ranged against each other. And often we talk past each other. And there has to be common ground, perhaps not through politics, but through the language of religion, of being faithful stewards of this liberal religious tradition. We will have our mask, and we will explain that we're protecting not just ourselves, and we are not motivated out of fear, but we are motivated out of compassion and love for the other, even for the people who dismiss us at that particular moment, and encourage them to appreciate us not as adversaries, but as fellow travelers. It is not a one and done encounter. It calls us to be in continued relationship with other people, and that can be a very difficult and trying experience. If you've ever had to deal with groups like Westward Baptist Church, you know what I'm talking about. And at times it may seem very fruitless and futile, but we are messengers of hope, and we must continue to be inspired by hope and the stories of love, and continue to engage again and again as representatives and as stewards of Unitarian Universalism. And a time will come, we hope and we pray, when this pandemic will be past, and all the mass that we have accumulated will end up perhaps in a Goodwill store. But until such time, let us be mindful of the generations that are to follow us, and perhaps someday they will pinpoint this year, this generation that has passed through the shadows of this pandemic, and bless us for being stubborn advocates of hope and blessing, and thus may we further the blessings of creation. Thank you, and amen.
Our closing hymn today, number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time.
We'll view the past with no
For our closing words, I turn to this meditation by my colleague, the Reverend Mark Bellatini. Go in peace. Live simply, gently, at home in yourselves. Act justly. Speak justly. Remember the depth of your own compassion, and forget not your power in the days of your powerlessness. Do not desire to be wealthier than your peers, and stint not your hand of charity. Practice forbearance. Speak the truth or speak not. Take care of yourself as bodies, for you are a good gift. Crave peace for all people in this world, beginning with yourself, and go as you go with the dream of that peace alive in all of your heart. Amen, and blessed be.
I want to thank Reverend Wolfe from Springfield, Illinois, for that wonderful message today. If you want to see what they did with my sermon on patience, simply go to the website of the Abraham Lincoln Unitarian Universalist congregation. You can pop in on their service this Sunday as well. But we thank Reverend Wolfe for being with us and bringing that very important and very timely message. Now it is time to extinguish our flame and go our separate ways. May all blessings be with you.